I funded my sister's surrogacy. Then a DNA screen shattered our bloodline myth. The clinic called it 803. We need you in person, the coordinator said. Paperwork. I was halfway down Guerrero when Tess texted. Nausea's back. Don't worry. I should have turned around. Instead, I parked, scanned my badge, and stepped into the blue-lit lobby where the framed awards made everything feel clean and earned. Sign here, Ray said, sliding me a clipboard. Ray wore a lanyard that said GC 19-4306 in tiny white print, like a secret you could only see when you bent close. What is it? I asked. Routine update. Consent alignment. She didn't blink. Trained eyes, neutral smile. The first page was boilerplate. The second had a new line. Acknowledgement. Funder agrees not to contest parentage determinations under Clause 3C. Was this always here? I asked. Ray's smile didn't move. We refreshed templates. I read it again. Clause 3C. The Bloodline clause was the one Griffin loved. Bloodline heirs. His favorite toast, his favorite joke, his favorite threat. Paper makes family, he'd say, tapping the prenup addendum like it was scripture. I need legal review, I said, putting the pen down. Of course, Ray said. Take your time. We can hold processing until 1600 hours. Time was a fist around my throat. Tessa's stipend was due on the 1st. I'd wired $12,500 on May 1st and logged receipts like a bookkeeper who only trusted math. My phone buzzed Maya, then stopped. Then Maya again. I signed the visitor log instead of the form and asked for copies. Ray printed them, each page warming my palms like they'd been alive a second ago. I'll tell Dr. Vale you're here, she said. Dr. Vale arrived with a damp ring on his sleeve, the kind people get when they wash their hands and forget to dry under the cuff. Walk, he said. We went past the wall of plaques into a corridor that smelled like lemon and anxious silence. There's nothing to worry about, he said. Then why change 3C? I asked. He exhaled. Templates evolve. People ask for clarity. People like Griffin? Vale smiled without teeth. People, he said. Maya wants quiet. Quiet helps the baby. Maya wants control, I said, and regretted it as soon as I heard the edge in my voice. Control is another word for calm, he said, like a man defending philosophy, not practice. You're doing a generous thing. Don't let paper make it feel small. Paper decides custody, I said. He turned his palms up. Courts decide custody. Paper helps. Back in the lobby, Ray handed me a manila envelope. Disclosures you requested, she said. The seal felt like it had a heartbeat. I slid it carefully and found an audit log. R. IVF 23-071A and R. IVF 23-071B. 2 embryos born of the same cycle, 2 serials I'd seen but never memorized. There was a column called Chain of Control, next to 23-071B. 7 hours, 58 minutes, and 3 seconds. ID edited. Note, alignment. What does alignment mean? I asked. Batch naming. Nothing substantive, Ray said. I took photos. Not because I didn't trust them, because I didn't trust how fast everyone said nothing. Phones remember what nerves try to delete. Outside, the wind-off market made the flag snap like reprimands. I called Tess at 8:27. Are you okay? I'm fine, she said, breathy. Baby's fine. They said it's routine. Who said? Maya, she said, a little laugh that wasn't a laugh. She's here. She brought ginger candies. Can you put her on? Silence. Then Maya's voice, bright and flat. You're making this harder than it needs to be. You changed 3C? I said. We clarified it, she said. For everyone's peace. Whose peace? I asked. The baby's, she said, like the word was a deed in her name. Griffin texted while I was still on the call. Meet at 13:05. No lawyers. Then another. Quiet costs less. I drove to the credit union because fear pays better with paper. A key waited for me at the counter in an envelope with my name printed in a font I only used for bid packets. Box 14 smelled like metal and dust and somebody else's conscience. Inside, invoices, wire confirmations, DocuSign receipts, my life and ledgers. The line item that screamed without making a sound. J. Vargas Consulting, $25,000, 03/02. Memo, lab optimization gift. 3 days before March 5th, when our IVF 23-071B had become a number people spoke like a prayer. I printed it all and put the copies in a new folder labeled with a lie, tax. At 13:05, I pulled into Griffin's garage. He waited with a coffee he didn't offer me. Sign the amendment, he said. No hello. We all get what we want. Define we, I said. He smiled like the kind of man who thinks mirrors are honest. Parents, grandparents, community. And me? You get to be generous, he said. Again, he slid a sheet across the workbench. Mutual NDA. I scanned it. Mutual as in mutually gagged. Mutual? Where's mine? I asked. It's implied, he said. Not in court, I said, taking a photo. He didn't like that. Delete it, he said. Send me a PDF after we sign, I said. Mutual. He leaned forward. Maya wants this quiet, he said. Quiet costs. Silence costs more, I said. He laughed. You can't afford either. I left without signing. I hit 39 miles per hour down Guerrero because anger is faster than sense. At 1640, I walked into Halb and Low and asked for Edward. He read my folder in a silence that felt less like quiet and more like loading. You need a TRO, he said at last. Preserve records. Freeze the parentage paperwork. Get a neutral lab on chain of custody swabs for everyone. Tests, embryo records, any stored material. If there's been a switch, we don't accuse, we document. HIPAA. I asked. HIPAA allows sharing with payors in limited cases, he said. We'll tailor the request. R. IVF 23-071A and B, I said, showing him the photo. 7 hours 58 minutes and 3 seconds. ID edited. Note, alignment. Edward nodded. We ask what alignment means in their SOP, and we get a judge who likes clocks. At 16:55, he filed. At 17:12, Judge Alvarez signed. Preserve all records, access logs, devices, halt parentage actions, neutral lab by Friday 12 o'clock. I exhaled for the first time all day. On the sidewalk, the city smelled like rain it hadn't earned. My phone buzzed. Ray. We received an order, she said. We'll comply. Thank you, I said. And Maya asked me to tell you she wants quiet. She paused. Quiet helps the baby. Quiet helps Maya, I said. The baby needs truth. I went home to a kitchen full of receipts and a silence that didn't feel like help. At 21:07, SFPD knocked for a welfare check because someone had called about concerning texts. Maya's assistant cried in the hallway. He's unstable, she said. He's making threats. The officers looked at my counters, my folder, my hands. Sir, are you okay? One asked. I'm fine, I said. I'm documenting. Keep it civil, he said. Courts hate noise. After they left, I sat on the floor and sorted copies into 3 stacks. Embryo, money, words. I put mutual NDA on words and felt the paper try to tell me what to feel. I labeled the box proof. I slept in a chair because beds tell you you're safe, and I wasn't ready to be lied to twice. At 23:19, my phone lit the room. Tess, they changed my bracelet. It says Mother, Maya Hall. Is that normal? No. I typed, then deleted no and wrote, don't sign anything. The 3 dots blinked like someone breathing wrong. Then stillness. And then my phone buzzed with a new number I didn't recognize. After the 20-week screen, everything accelerated like somebody leaned on the fast-forward button. The number I didn't recognize was Edward. They're moving, he said. We serve the order at 8 o'clock. Be there with ID. I got to the clinic at 7:53. The lobby flowers were new, smelling like apology. Ray met me with a clipboard and eyes that wanted this over. We need to verify custody contacts, she said. Court says neutral lab, I said, and handed her the order. Her pupils did a small, unhappy dance. I'll get Dr. Vale. Vale arrived with a smile built from old brochures. We'll support the process, he said. Everyone wants the same thing, healthy outcome. Everyone wants paper to say they're right, I said. He gestured toward a room with glass walls. Chain of custody swabs, then we'll copy all relevant logs. Our SOP allows lab access for neutrals with proper credentials. Good, I said. We'll bring our own pens. Tess came in at 8:21, pale under a sweatshirt with a cartoon sun that didn't look like it believed in itself. Is this bad? She asked. It's clarity, I said, keeping my voice soft. Clarity helps the baby. Maya stood behind her, hands folded like a brochure model for serenity. This is stress, she said. Stress is bad. Fraud is worse, I said. Maya's smile didn't change. No one said fraud, she said. People don't say fire when they smell smoke, I said. They open a window and pretend it's fresh air. Edward arrived with the neutral tech, Anna, who had a case that clicked like seriousness. We'll start with Tess, he said. Maya moved as if to intervene, then remembered the judge's name and pretended she had been planning to stand aside all along. Ray announced each step like an incantation. Tess Hall, swab, sealed, bag ID N001. The sounds of tape and zipper made the room feel procedural, which is another word for real. Next, embryo record chain, Edward said. Ray hesitated. We don't swab embryos, she said. We swab what touches them, he said. Tanks, straws, caps, lab devices, if logs show access in the relevant windows. Relevant windows, Vale repeated, like he was tasting the phrase for poison. Define. February 15th, present, Edward said. Your logs say 7 hours, 58 minutes, and 3 seconds. ID edited. We'll want the workstation, too. Alignment, Ray said automatically. And we'll align our understanding, Edward said. They wheeled in devices that looked like science had a bad night's sleep. Anna labeled everything as if God needed help remembering. I filmed timestamps, room clocks, wrists, doors. I said each number out loud so future me wouldn't have to guess what past me meant. Maya took out her phone and typed with her mouth pressed thin. Don't, I said. She looked up, injured innocence. I'm telling my mother I'll be late. Tell her courts hate noise, I said. Ray handed us a stack of copies so tall it made paper seem heavy. Access logs, badge swipes, audit trails. At the bottom of the last stack was a page I hadn't seen. Prenatal parentage worksheet, draft. There, under mother, someone had typed Maya Hall. Under father, Griffin Hall. Under funder, my legal name in a font that looked apologetic. What is this? I asked. Ray swallowed. Template. Templates don't guess, I said. Vale folded his hands. We collect scenarios, he said. We prepare for possibilities. Possibilities like paper replacing biology, I said. Paper reflects arrangements, he said. Arrangements like bloodline heirs, I said. Maya's voice slid in like oil. We're aligning language, she said. It's compassionate. For whom? I asked. For the child, she said. The way people say for the church when they mean for the donors. Edward tapped the line under mother. This is pre-adjudicative, he said. It goes nowhere without court. Unless someone signs, I said, and thought of Griffin's garage and the coffee he didn't offer me. At 10:30, we were in Department 12. Judge Alvarez read the papers like they were trying to fool him personally. Preserve, he said, marking the order. Neutral lab by Friday, 12 o'clock. No parentage actions until then. No document destruction. No unilateral changes to bracelets, bands, or identifiers. Bracelets, Maya repeated softly, like the word had betrayed her. Bracelets, the judge said again louder. Outside, under a sky that couldn't decide if it believed in rain, Edward said, we hold them to clocks. We don't argue feelings. We argue time. He looked at me. You don't talk to Griffin without me. I don't talk to Griffin, I said. At 12:47, Griffin talked to me. You think you won, he said, voice marble smooth. You didn't. You embarrassed Maya. Maya embarrassed Maya, I said. Come sign the mutual, he said. 50,000. Today. 50,000 for what? For quiet, he said. Silence costs more, I said. He laughed. You love speeches. Enjoy court. At 14:10, I was at the credit union again, because fear makes you tidy. I added parentage worksheet, draft, to words and underlined mother. Maya Hall, until the letters looked like they were trying to climb off the page. I checked my math on Tessa's stipend. $1,000 went through as a stopgap. $11,500 scheduled by Friday. To complete the monthly $12,500, if the court didn't freeze it. I penciled, to complete $12,500, in the margin so future me would remember what past me meant. At 16:40, Edward texted, lab confirms receipt of devices. Neutral swab scheduled. Don't engage. At 18:03, my doorbell rang. A courier with a smile like policy handed me a sealed envelope. Inside, the mutual NDA, pre-signed by Maya and Griffin. Mutual as in mutually gagged. Under consideration, $50,000. Under obligations, delete audit copies. Do not share with third parties. Do not contest parentage under Clause 3C. I held it up to the kitchen light like truth could be backlit. My phone pinged. A WhatsApp number with no name sent a photo of the NDA and a line that felt like a blade. $50,000 if you sign and delete every copy tonight. After the $50,000 WhatsApp bribe, I went straight to Halb and Lowe because fear likes witnesses. Edward read the mutual NDA twice. Delete every copy, he said. They want to salt the earth. They want me to do it for them, I said. We don't delete, he said. We escrow. At 9:12, we opened a shared vault. My files went in with audit time stamps like a second spine. Edward added a memo. Copies held pending court review. No party may compel deletion. By 10:05, we were back at the clinic. Ray met us at the door with a look that said she'd spent the night answering emails. The judge's order is on file, she said. We're complying. Good, Edward said. We'll inspect the devices. I filmed clocks, doors, pins, wrists. I said each number out loud because my future self would need me to be kind. R. IVF 23-071A. R. IVF 23-071B. 7 hours 58 minutes and 3 seconds. ID edited. Note, alignment. Define alignment, Edward said. Ray's mouth made a shape that wanted to be confident. Batch naming, she said. Show the SOP that uses alignment as a reason to edit IDs, he said. Vale arrived with a folder and a tone like a seminar. We harmonize identifiers when chain of control artifacts are reevaluated, he said. Harmonize is a song, Edward said. We need steps. We sat in a glass room where the air conditioning sounded like someone trying not to cry. Anna, the neutral, unpacked swabs and labels like she was setting the table for truth. N002. Tank collar, she said. N003, straw caps. N004, workstation keyboard. N005, badge reader. Maya stood outside the glass and pretended she wasn't pacing. Griffin didn't come. Griffin prefers rooms he can stage. At 12:03, Anna sealed the last bag. I set it into the camera. Time, 12:03. Neutral met the Friday, 12 o'clock deadline. Edward raised an eyebrow. 12:03 isn't 12, he said softly. Met within grace window, Anna said. Lab clocks calibrate on the hour. We document literal time. We'll note it, Edward said, writing 12:03, received, like a man feeding a future argument. We left with copies heavy enough to make paper feel like metal. Outside, Tess leaned against a wall, eyes glassy. They say I'm overreacting, she said. You're reacting to facts, I said. Facts don't apologize. She nodded, then flinched as a stroller squeaked past. Is this my fault? She asked, the way people ask about weather and war. No, I said. Fault is a decision people make when they don't want to say choice. At 14:22, the neutral lab called. Chain intact. Swabs logged. At 15:10, Department 12 emailed a hearing notice. Monday 10:30. Status. Compliance. Scope of alignment. Parentage hold. Words that felt like a handrail. I went home and made dinner I didn't eat. The kitchen smelled like lemon and paper. At 18:44, Lila called. Lila was Tess's friend from a time before Maya turned kindness into an exchange rate. I got messages, she said, from a mom in the RLC group. She says her embryo vanished. Vanished how? I asked. She said the ID changed mid-cycle, Lila said. She got a different one. She had screenshots. She sounded careful. Careful how? Like she'd been called dramatic before, Lila said. She deleted the thread after someone DM'd her a reminder about community guidelines. Screenshots? I asked. I saved them, she said. I didn't know if they mattered. They matter, I said. At 19:07, I was at Lila's, a walk-up with a widow AC unit that convulsed like it was remembering winter. She handed me her phone. The thread was a map of a feeling I already had. 23-071B 23-071A at 7 hours 58 minutes and 3 seconds. Nurse said alignment. Prenatal worksheet typed before scan. And a private message. Quiet helps community cohesion. Quiet helps the people who can afford it, I said. Lila poured tea she didn't drink. I didn't trust posting publicly, she said. But I trust you. Why? Because you make copies, she said. People who make copies don't gaslight. I laughed, a short, tired sound. People who make copies are afraid. Afraid is careful, she said. At 2031, I sent the screenshots to Edward and labeled them Exhibit RLC, 1 to -4. He replied with a single thumbs up he reserves for things that fit into boxes judges like. By 2111, my phone had turned into a radio. Nurses who wanted to remain unnamed. A tech who used to work under J. Vargas and had thoughts about optimization. A woman whose prenatal worksheet had listed the wrong mother for 2 hours. Just 2 hours, she repeated like a curse. Names later, Edward texted. Tonight we preserve. Do not engage with Griffin. At 22:03, the building lights flickered like a budget theater trying to be moody. Someone knocked, soft, rehearsed. I didn't open. SFPD again, different officers, same script. We got another welfare call, one said. You should get some sleep. After I label exhibits, I said. Courts like neat, he said, half a smile. When they left, I wrote labels until the numbers felt like prayers. Exhibit A, audit log. Exhibit B, prenatal worksheet, draft. Exhibit C, NDA and signed. Exhibit D1. At 23:19, Tess texted, they moved me rooms. My bracelet still says Mother, Maya Hall. Is that normal? No, I typed again. Then, don't sign anything. I'm coming in the morning. She sent a photo of the bracelet under fluorescent light that made skin look like paper. A minute later, another message arrived before I could breathe. I think you have our baby. Lila called at 19:31, voice flat, like she'd been ironing the same shirt for hours. The mom from RLC, the one with the screenshots, she'll talk, she said. But she wants a neutral on the line. We'll add Anna, I said. We scheduled 2000 hours. The woman's name was Edith Chalmers. She sounded like someone who wrote lists when storms were forecast. My clinic said alignment too, she said. IDR, IVF, 23-071A showed up on my chart for 2 hours. Then it changed back. They told me it was a display glitch. I took pictures. Did you file a complaint? Edward asked. I asked for the SOP that allows ID edits mid-cycle, she said. They sent me a brochure. Any tests on your stored material? Anna asked. Freezer checks monthly, Edith said. Tested 10/20. Transfer attempts? April 2nd, 25, she said. Failed. They said quality borderline. Then they said alignment. Same nurse, Ray? I looked at the ceiling like answers live in vents. We appreciate you, I said. I appreciate facts, she said. Community doesn't like facts. Community likes quiet, I said. Quiet helps donors, Edith said, and hung up the way careful people do, after they hear the click. At 21:07, I emailed Department 12, supplement, RLC thread, screenshots attached, witness Edith Chalmers available via counsel. I CC'd Edward and Anna because copies are a way to breathe. I slept 2 hours and woke up inside a noise I couldn't name. At 7:12, I was at the clinic lobby again because bad news trains you to arrive early. Ray looked like she'd slept on a sentence and it had imprinted. Neutral lab picks up at 9, she said. You can observe from the hall. Bracelet, I said. Her eyes flicked to my camera like it had asked a rude question. We're reviewing. Court says no unilateral changes, I said. We're reviewing, she repeated, which is a way to say yes without saying yes. Tess was propped on pillows that didn't believe in backs. They said I was rash for texting you, she said. You were precise, I said. Precision helps. Maya appeared in the doorway like she'd been painted there. The baby's heart rate is excellent, she said to no one, and therefore to everyone. Excellent doesn't include fraud, I said. No one said fraud, she said. People don't shout fraud when they're drafting, I said. They whisper alignment. The monitor beeped like a metronome trying to teach a song I didn't want to learn. I looked at the bracelet. Mother, Maya Hall. I took a photo with time and 2 clocks in my watch face because I wanted redundancy enough to bore a skeptic. At 9 o'clock, Anna rolled up with a cart that squeaked when the floor changed color. Neutral pickup, she said. The transport cases clicked shut like arguments. Edward arrived at 9:06, flipping a legal pad to a fresh page that already had a title: Status, Compliance, Logs, Bracelets. He nodded at the band on Tessa's wrist. We'll raise it at 10:30. At 10:30, Department 12 was colder than physics required. Judge Alvarez looked over his glasses at the stack of paper we'd made bigger than ourselves. Are we all honoring clocks? He asked. Neutral received at 12:03, Anna said. Noted, the judge said. Bracelet still reads Mother, Maya Hall, Edward said. The judge turned to Vale. Why? Vale folded his hands like he practiced in reflective surfaces. EHR displays lag, he said. Band printers cue. Bands are not metaphors, the judge said. They are identifiers. Replace the band. Today. Maya's smile cracked a millimeter. Griffin's lawyer, J. Vargas, spoke for the first time. The band reflects anticipated legal status, he said. It avoids confusion. It creates it, the judge said. Replace the band. Produce the SOP that uses alignment to edit IDs mid-cycle. And produce the workstation that logs 7 hours, 58 minutes, and 3 seconds. We're gathering, Vargas said. Gather faster, the judge said, and signed an order that made gather look like a threat. Outside, the hallway smelled like coffee and paper cuts. Edward exhaled. Small wins, he said. Small wins keep you standing, I said. Ray intercepted us with a printout whose ink was still damp. EHR band change. Executed, it read. Mother, Tess Hall. I photographed it like it might dissolve. Back in Tessa's room, the new band looked like the old one except it told the truth. Tess cried a little, the polite kind people do when they don't want to make work for nurses. Is it over? She asked. It's a process, I said. Process hates drama. We feed it clocks. My phone buzzed. A number with no name. Lila again. Edith sent a longer note, she said. She found a line item in her portal. Consult, Vargas optimization, $25,000. Same memo as your invoice. Date? I asked. March 2nd, she said. 3 days before March 5th, I said. Same as mine. Patterns are how courts fall in love, Edward said. At 14:50, the neutral lab emailed preliminary. Chain intact. No cross-contamination detected. Further analysis pending. Words that build a bridge you can't cross yet. At 16:11, the clinic IT provided a screenshot. 7 hours, 58 minutes, and 3 seconds. User Vargas. Field ID edited. Note. Alignment. User? Edward repeated, soft like a fuse. Consultant. Ray said, a thin wire of a voice. Consultants don't edit IDs, Edward said. They consult. At 18:32, SFPD knocked a third time. We got calls about a disturbance in Department 12, the officer said. Something about raised voices. Voices were raised at a judicially acceptable altitude, Edward said. The officer smiled. Courts hate noise, he said. But they like receipts. Receipts we have, I said. I went home at 19:07 and stacked our receipts on the table until the table looked like it regretted its life choices. The city tried on rain and decided against it. My phone vibrated once, Maya. We can still make this quiet. I didn't reply. At 2022, Griffin sent a PDF of the mutual NDA, this time with a new line. Consideration, $75,000. Underneath, expires 23/59. I held it up to the kitchen light and watched the numbers fail to look like ethics. I put it in words, shut the lid, and banged hard on Tessa's door, 3 times, fast, like a warrant. After the audit log showed 7:58, ID edited, something in me stopped trying to be polite. At 21:03, I emailed Department 12, supplement. NDA escalation, $75,000. Bracelet correction executed. User Vargas recorded on ID edit at 7 hours, 58 minutes, and 3 seconds. Request device imaging order. Edward replied, granted orally. Written order in AM. At 21:41, my intercom buzzed. I didn't press anything. A minute later, someone knocked with that practiced softness that wants to be invited in. I didn't open. Tess texted. They moved the crib closer. Baby kicks more when I say your name. I read it like scripture and then like evidence, because everything was both. At 22:10, Lila arrived with a tote that looked like a confession. What's this? Contracts I'm not signing, I said. Make copies, she said. And I laughed for the first time in a day. Maya texted again. We can resolve this. $100,000. Tonight. I held the phone up to the kitchen light, as if ethics had a watermark. Edward called. Ignore, he said. Escrow. Prepare lists. Courts love lists. So I made lists. Devices to image. Workstation used at 7 hours 58 minutes and 3 seconds. Badge readers. Band printers. Dr. Vale's terminal. Ray's station. Consultant laptop if on premises. Documents to preserve. SOP revisions using alignment. Prenatal worksheet template history. Badge logs for 03/02, 03/05. J. Vargas Consulting Agreement. People to depose. Ray, Vale, Vargas. IT. Charge nurse on bracelet. Clerk who typed Maya beneath mother. At 23:07, my doorbell rang again. SFPD, for the fourth time, same script, different faces. You good? One asked. I'm labeling exhibits, I said. He nodded at the stacks. Courts like neat. When they left, the building went quiet in that particular way that means someone's listening. I wrote, noise is not equal to truth, on a post-it, and stuck it to the mutual NDA. At 012, the neutral lab emailed a line that wanted to be a lullaby. Chain intact. Preliminary genotype signature matches internal records. Full analysis ETA Friday. I read it twice, and then I slept for 1 hour like a lone. Morning came with a text from Griffin. Clock's ticking. Offer expires 23:59. He attached the NDA again, now at $100,000. Under obligations, the same line pulsed like a vein. Delete audit copies. You're not deleting, Edward said when I forwarded it. You're making a judge angry. That's different. At 7:55, I stood in the clinic hallway while Anna's cart squeaked past like a verdict on training wheels. Ray met me with a printout. Device imaging schedule with 3 columns and a dozen rows. Workstation 7 hours 58 minutes and 3 seconds sat at the top like a name above a door. Consultant laptop? I asked. Ray's mouth made a worried line. He's off-site, she said. Then we'll subpoena, Edward said from behind me, like he'd been practicing the word all night. We watched IT clone drives. We watched timestamps replicate. We watched alignment sit on paper and pretend to be a noun. At 10:05, Department 12 convened a status call. The judge sounded like a man who likes clocks and hates adjectives. Any progress on alignment? He asked. Counsel represents it as a display practice, Edward said. Show me the practice, the judge said. Today, Maya's lawyer, Vargas, spoke in a tone that makes people think they're being rescued. My client is prepared to stipulate to parentage consistent with medical facts, he said, if we can ensure discretion. Discretion is earned by truth, the judge said. Produce the practice. After the call, Maya appeared like she'd never left the hallway. You're making this ugly, she said. I'm making it accurate, I said. Accurate hurts, she said. Only if you built something on wrong, I said. She looked past me to Tess, who was asleep, mouth open in surrender. We can still have a family, she said. You're good at being generous. I'm retired, I said. From generosity that buys lies. At 12:34, the neutral lab courier signed out devices with a flourish that would photograph well. At 13:02, Lila texted, You should eat. I wrote back, copies first. And she sent a photo of a sandwich anyway. At 14:27, Edward forwarded an email, Consultant Access Policy, Addendum 3C, the kind of subject line that thinks it can hide in a crowd. Inside, Consultant access limited to read-only except by specific written authorization from medical director. At the bottom, a scanned signature, Dr. Vale. Did you sign this? I asked him in the hall. I signed many things, he said. Did you authorize ID edits? I asked. Language is imprecise, he said. We adjust labels for continuity. Labels are IDs, I said. Continuity is chain of custody. He blinked like a man met by a word he didn't expect to be heavy. We will cooperate, he said, and left. By 1640, we had a stack of exhibits that could hold a door open, RLC screenshots, Addendum 3C, audit logs, device imaging schedules, bracelet change order, prenatal worksheet, draft. By 1812, Tess texted, Maya's here. She brought soup. She said you're making this worse. I'm making it true, I wrote. It looked self-righteous on the screen, but I left it. At 19:03, Maya texted me. Last offer, $125,000. Tonight. Clause 3C stands. I wrote, truth stands. Then I deleted it and sent nothing. At 2011, a message arrived from an unknown email. Subject, alignment SOP, off the record. No body text, just an attachment, a photo of a page from a manual with 3 bullet points and a footnote that might as well have been a confession. When donor/funder visibility is likely to cause distress, utilize placeholder mapping to align external IDs with internal workflow. Edits must be logged. Use note, alignment. Notify medical director post hoc. Footnote. For external narratives, avoid technical detail. Emphasize calm and community guidelines. I looked at the ceiling and then at the door and then at my hands, which were shaking as if they'd remembered something I hadn't let myself feel. At 21:58, I sent the page to Edward and wrote, Exhibit SOP 1. He wrote back, chain. I replied, anonymous, likely internal. We'll authenticate. At 22:41, the building lights did the performance again. Then someone pounded our door, 3 blows, louder than before. We slept 3 hours, badly. At 7:20, we were printing labels because the day respects people who label things. Edward said, courts love neat. And I said, courts love clocks. And we were both right. At 8 o'clock, Department 12 called an emergency status. The judge had the attachment we'd labeled SOP 1. Who authored this? He asked. Vargas cleared his throat. It appears to be a fragment, he said. Unauthenticated. It appears to be a policy, the judge said. Produce the whole document. Today. And produce the authorization that allowed a consultant to edit an ID at 7 hours 58 minutes and 3 seconds. We're gathering, Vargas said. Gather faster, the judge said, and I pictured the order like a hallway getting shorter. At 9:14, Ray handed us a packet. Consultant engagement, J. Vargas. Scope, workflow optimization. Access, read-only. Amendment, by written authorization of medical director. Limited right privileges for label alignment in non-diagnostic fields. Authorization, Vail. Dated March 2nd. Non-diagnostic fields? Edward said. ID is diagnostic. ID is label, Vail said. Label is how you know what's in the straw, Edward said. We'll argue this at 10:30. At 10:30, the judge didn't look tired so much as bored, which is worse. ID fields are not decorative, he said. They're chain of custody. If you have a policy that says otherwise, rescind it by noon. Vargas started a sentence with community, and the judge ended it with rescinded. At 11:59, we received an email with a single line that had the weight of a small building. Policy Addendum 3C, rescinded effective immediately. Put it in exhibits, Edward said. Judges like before/after. At 12:16, the neutral lab called prelim genotype, fetal tissue consistent with embryo, R, IVF, 23-071A, not consistent with the recorded maternal line associated with Maya Hall. I braced my hand on the counter. Say it again, I said, because sometimes truth needs a second reading. Consistent with 23-071A, the voice said. Inconsistent with Maya Hall. More to come. I hung up and texted Tess. Neutral lab. Consistent with 23-071A, not Maya. You okay? She wrote, breathing. Maya texted me 3 words that sounded like a stage direction. This isn't over. At 13:05, Edward filed a stipulated parentage and custody consent draft with boxes for signatures like thresholds. Mother, Tess Hall. Funder/guardian, my name, guardian ad litem, temporary Anna. It wasn't final. It was a bridge built out of verbs, stipulate, consent, preserve. At 14:32, Lila showed up with a flash drive and eyes that had been awake too long. Edith sent the rest, she said. The RLC screenshots had grown into a small forest. R. IVF 23-071A appeared in more places than it had any right to. Threads where Ray was a mod. Messages from accounts that looked like people but read like policy. A cheerfully designed PDF called Community Guidelines. Supportive language for difficult moments. Difficult moments? I said. Fraud, Lila said. We printed until the printer made a smell like hot dust and regret. Tess texted. They brought the baby monitor closer. They said I could choose music. I asked what she picked. White noise, she wrote. Feels honest. At 16:05, Department 12 reconvened. The judge read the neutral prelim like he was peeling a label. We are not assigning final parentage today, he said. We are preserving the possibility of honesty. He turned to Maya's side. You will stop contacting petitioner with offers. He turned to us. You will stop answering texts with sarcasm. Noted, Edward said, elbowing me in the ribs. At 17:20, SFPD called, not to visit, but to update. Welfare calls stopped, the officer said. Whoever was scared got bored. Boredom is mercy, I said. At 18:33, Vargas emailed a PDF titled Settlement Dialogue, Confidential. Inside, the same mutual NDA, now at $150,000, with a new clause that tried to look like a kindness. Clinic commits to reviewing SOP language to prevent confusion. Confusion, I said aloud, because sometimes you need to hear the insult to believe it. At 19:11, Lila knocked with takeout. We ate standing up. How does this end, she asked. With a signature we don't hate, I said, or a ruling we can live with. At 20:02, the Neutral Lab sent an update that felt like a key inserted into a lock we'd been pretending was decorative. Workstation image shows manual edit at 7 hours 58 minutes and 3 seconds. User, Vargas. Note. Alignment, audit trail retained. No evidence of external tampering. The words manual edit rang in the room like a bell. At 21:18, Edward drafted the motion he'd been rehearsing in his sleep. Motion, sanctions, spoliation hold, appointment of neutral temporary administrator, expansion of TRO to cover prenatal identifiers and communications. He handed it to me to read. My eyes blurred around, neutral temporary administrator. That phrase always sounds like a person you can trust even if you shouldn't. At 22:07, Tess called. They asked me to sign discharge prep, she said. Just routine. Nothing is routine, I said. I'm coming. Lila drove because my hands believed in shaking. The city had finally decided to rain. We took turns reading the road and the motion and Tess's last text. Room 304. Light's weird. Baby's quiet. We moved through the corridors like people who learned a building by grief. At 22:59, we reached her door. The hallway was a refrigerator. The bracelet on her wrist said Mother, Tess Hall. The monitor hummed like a vow. Is this normal? Tess whispered. Not yet, I said. But it could be. Someone coughed behind us. Ray. She looked smaller than policy. I'm supposed to get signatures, she said. Discharge prep. Tomorrow, Edward said. Tonight, she said, and looked at the floor. What's tonight? I asked. She put the flash drive on the table. I copied the SOP, she said. The whole thing. And the edit history. Why? I asked. She shut her eyes. Mom, she said. You're on it. Locker 14 smelled like metal and dust and somebody else's conscience. The key Lila found in the thrifted tote fit like a memory. I turned it, and the locker door shuddered open an inch, like it had opinions. Inside, a manila envelope with a rubber band that had given up last week. RLC admin, private. I thought you said box 14, Lila whispered. Different building, I said. Same number. Some people repeat themselves until paper learns. I opened the envelope. Inside, a blue spiral notebook, a zip bag, and a rubber stamp that had Linda Park carved backward into its face. The bag held a USB with a label that made my skin go cold. Band Q. 03/02. 03/05. Linda Park, Lila said. Is that? UPS counter, I said. Ray said a girl at the counter told Aaron he could borrow a stamp. That's the name. They borrowed more than ink. I filmed like I had learned to breathe through a lens. Time 8:11. Locker 14. Band Q. 03/02. 03/05. I said each word so a future judge couldn't say I'd mumbled truth into myth. We took the notebook to Edward, who turned the pages like he was defusing a bomb. Columns. Dates. Amounts. Vargas, Consulting, $25,000,0302. Lab Optimization Gift. Next line. Bracelet. Mother Maya Hall. 03/04. Queued. Next line. Worksheet. Parentage draft. 03/05. Pre-scan. This isn't an SOP, Edward said. This is a ledger of decisions pretending to be process. Decisions have names, I said, tapping Vargas. Edward pointed to the stamp. Linda Park sat like a made-up aunt that kept showing up in family photos. You don't stamp neutral with a borrowed name, he said. You stamp fraud. We printed. We labeled. We gave the USB to the neutral lab because plastic with secrets belongs in rooms with carpet that doesn't squeak. Anna signed N017, band Q. Intake, like she was writing a reassurance to someone she used to be. Maya texted, "You have what you want. Let this breathe." Paper isn't a lung, I wrote and deleted. I sent nothing. At 10:40, Department 12 took USB chain into the record. Admitted for in-camera review, the clerk said. Vargas smiled the way people do when they think the room is theirs. The judge didn't smile at all. Counsel, he said, if this shows a cue that pre-populated bands with Mother, Maya Hall, while a court order was pending, vocabulary will not save you. Your Honor, Vargas began. Words like alignment and community are not talismans, the judge said, and moved on. Outside, Tess texted a photo of her new band like a child sending a picture of a tooth. Mother, Tess Hall. Underneath, I can breathe. At 12:53, the neutral lab emailed. Band Q USB, parsed. Q entries show edits March 4, 2113 and March 5, 7:57 with note, alignment. User, Vargas. Device, Workstation 3 East. I read it twice, then a third time. Then I forwarded it to Edward with Exhibit USB 1. Lila rested her head on the table like someone who'd finally met a finish line. Is this what winning feels like? She asked. It feels like not drowning, I said. At 14:05, Ray knocked on our conference room door like she wished knocking was anonymous. You didn't get this from me, she said, and set down a printer log. Bracelet printers, job history, 03/02, 03/05. Next to March 4, 2114. Mother, Maya Hall, printed 6. Next to March 5, 8:02. Mother, Maya Hall, reprint. The last line was the one that took the air out of the room. July 3, 9:31. Override denied, court hold. Thank you, I said. Ray nodded like gratitude hurt. They said it was a display lag, she said. Printers don't lag. Edward scanned the log into a PDF like putting a ghost in a jar. Exhibit PRN 1, he said. At 16:22, SFPD called instead of knocking. No more welfare calls, the officer said. We're writing this down as resolved. Nothing's resolved, I said. But thank you for not knocking. At 17:50, Vargas sent settlement, final, confidential, with the number that used to be a mortgage, $200,000. New line. Clinic to commit to reviewing processes and supportive language. Edward typed counter, no NDA, public stipulation, neutral admin. He didn't hit send. He looked at me instead. Do you want the money? He asked. I want our names on the right lines, I said. He nodded and deleted the draft. Then we asked for the thing that hurts them the least and helps us the most, sunlight. At 19:31, Anna called. USB parsed to the end. Logs consistent with workstation image. No evidence of tamper beyond manual edits. Manual edits. I repeated, the way people repeat diagnoses. Manual edits, she said back. I walked the 2 blocks to Edward's office because streets sometimes make more sense than rooms. The city had finally committed to rain. On the glass door, my face looked like it owed me honesty. Inside, Edward had 2 folders open. Court and clinic, like 2 wings of a bird we were teaching to fly differently. Tomorrow, he said, we argue neutral temporary administrator and stipulated parentage pending final lab. Then we ask for a small, mean thing, sanctions for the vocabulary. For the vocabulary, I said. He smiled. Courts hate euphemism. He slid me a pen. Chain of custody begins. We walked 2 blocks to his office safe and fed our paper into a space that hummed like patience. When we stepped back outside, my phone lit with a notification that felt like a curtain lifting. A name I didn't have and didn't need, Mom. A message that didn't ask and didn't apologize. And a photo taken from behind me. 2 security badges, 553 and 910, crowding the frame. By Friday 12:03, deadline met. The neutral lab burned the lies to ash. Probability of maternity, 0%, Edward read. Probability of maternity, Tess Hall, 999%. I had to put my hand on the table to stay in the room. The lab tech, neutral, kind, practiced, said it again in the tone you use for numbers that change lives. Maternal line, Tess Hall. Recorded maternal line, Maya Hall. Inconsistent. Edward didn't look at me. He looked at the clock. Department 12 at 10:30, he said. Bring the band log. Bring USB. Bring the SOP and the addendum rescission. Bring patients. Bring names in the right boxes, I said. We walked into chambers with paper that felt like metal. Judge Alvarez read our motions like they'd tried to lie to him in another life. Vargas sat with a legal pad that had too much white space. Maya's chair grazed mine. Mom's was behind us, straight-backed with disappointment. Status, the judge said. Neutral analysis confirms 23-071A maternal line equals Tess Hall, Edward said. Workstation shows manual edit at 7 hours 58 minutes and 3 seconds by user Vargas with note, alignment. Printer logs show bracelets cued mother, Maya Hall during hold. Policy Addendum 3, C, rescinded effective yesterday. Vargas tried to make community walk into the room, and it tripped over chain of custody. We regret confusion, he said. The court regrets vocabulary, the judge said. Stipulated parentage and custody consent will be signed today. Neutral temporary administrator appointed to oversee clinic identifiers and communications for 30 days. Sanctions to be determined after hearing on policy and conduct. Maya's breath made a noise like a paper cut. She stood. This is cruel, she said. It's accurate, the judge said. Cruelty is when you keep a band that lies. Tess cried without moving. Lila put a hand on her shoulder the way people do when they've run out of fix and only have stay. Anna signed the chain of custody page with the care she gave everything. I signed next because sometimes you get to be the person who puts ink where truth already is. Talk resolution, the judge said when the signatures were done. We were in chambers, Judge Alvarez, a court reporter, our two sides, the neutral. It felt less like negotiation and more like the part where a storm decides it's already rained. Public stipulation, Edwards said. No NDA. Clinic commits to policy audit by external counsel. Parentage fixed. Bracelet systems reconfigured with dual verification. No contact from respondents outside counsel. Confidential statement noting our shared commitment to calm, Vargas said, trying to rescue a word that had drowned. No, the judge said. You don't get calm as a trophy. You get accuracy. We signed the stipulation. It wasn't a parade. It was a receipt. Outside, on the courthouse steps, rain made everything look like it meant it. Mom stopped 3 steps down and turned like she'd forgotten something she wanted to remember. I didn't know, she said. You knew what you wanted, I said. Sometimes that looks the same. She nodded at Tess, a motion that tried to be a bow and ended up as an apology. I made soup, she said to no one. I can bring it. Bring truth, Lila said. We have soup. At 14:10, the clinic issued a statement that said nothing with more syllables than facts. At 14:31, Ray sent a selfie in a break room with a closed laptop and eyes that had learned something about policy. I'm sorry, she wrote. I'll testify. At 1600 hours, the neutral admin sent out the first memo with bullet points like anchors. All ID edits disabled. Bracelet printers required dual credential. Alignment removed from vocabulary. External consultant right access revoked. All parentage worksheets watermarked draft until court filing. Courts love bullets, Edwards said. And for once, I let myself laugh. At 17:03, Tess texted a photo. The baby monitor showed a curve of light like a moon that believed in us. They played music, she wrote. Not white noise. Actual music. At 18:12, Vargas emailed the last thing he had to give. We withdraw settlement demand. No further contact. I archived it like a museum would archive the tool that built a lie. We ate soup in a room that smelled like lemon and victory that had been earned, not bought. Lila fell asleep with her head on a folder labeled words. Mom washed bowls like pennants. Tess stared at the band on her wrist and said, Mother, Tess Hall, twice. Once for the record and once for the part of her that had learned to doubt. Later, When the hospital got quiet in the honest way, I walked the hall and touched the signs that told you where you were. Radiology. Family room. Exit. A man in a gray suit turned a corner, and for half a second I thought I was seeing a memory. Then Vargas stepped out in a gray suit I recognized before I saw the face.